Hey guys, welcome. I hope you enjoy this story.
Me and two friends from my squadron went out one night to watch the Hunger Games while stationed in New Jersey. After the movie got out, it was already late at night and the parking lot was mostly empty. We decide to stand around and bullshit while smoking before we start back towards the base. Out of nowhere, we see this U-Haul truck come flying into the parking lot. I jokingly say, "Oh shit, I hope it's not a fucking bomb coming after us." Since we had all just got back from downrange. Well, the truck does make a line straight for us. Now we're a little worried about what's going on. The truck comes speeding up to us and stops directly in front of us. The driver looks worried as shit, and his wife is not looking any better. They ask us if they can use one of our cell phones because there is a person locked in the back of the U-Haul. We, of course, oblige and call the police for them. While waiting around, they explain it's his wife's ex-boyfriend, and he has been threatening them for a long time. That's why they were having to move. Well, the ex heard about this move and decided to hide in the back of the truck so he could get them at their new destination. Neither me nor my friends believe a fucking word of this, but we felt we should wait around since we were the ones who called the police. When they finally arrived about 30 minutes later, not from us calling, the one that showed up was just a random patrol near the theater that noticed us. The driver explains the situation, and the officer calls for backup and all that. Turns out, it was all fucking true. The police opened up the back of the truck and tried getting the guy out. He fought back and ended up tased. It was a hell of a way to end our night, and none of our NCOs believed us. Granted, after everything and before we left, one of the police actually said, "Your wives and bosses aren't going to believe this shit happened at all." I was commuting into NYC at a rather off-peak time. I was alone, dressed professionally with my bag at my side. I was sitting in a rather less crowded train car, but there were people there. A heckler gets on the train and starts asking everyone if they have any change to spare. He gets to me and asks me the same question, to which I reply, "No, sorry, I don't have anything for you today." He proceeds to heckle me by saying, but miss, you're so beautiful, please, please." To which I reply once again, "I have nothing for you today." He was so close to me that I could feel his spit on me. It was rather disgusting. All of a sudden, transit police come busting through the train car door and start yelling at the man, "Sit down on the bench and cross your legs. You'll be getting off at the next stop." At the same time, a bystander comes over and hands the heckler a newspaper and says, "Here, cover up." His thing had been hanging out of his pants the entire time. I had been so concerned with getting him out of my face, away from me, that I didn't even notice. Eventually, the train stopped and he was asked to get off, and he did. Everyone proceeded to ask me if I was okay, and that was that. Grossest one of many weird commuting stories. You know how a lot of people feel they're being followed in their car, only to be proved wrong eventually? Well, one night my brother and I were driving home, and driving through our neighborhood I got that feeling. Our house is far back in the neighborhood, so it got worse and worse. I finally told my brother to keep driving past our house. He did, and sure enough we got followed around the block a couple times. We started really freaking out, but we quickly got away from him by speeding up and going around an inner loop in the neighborhood, then going back out to the main road for a while. It is scary still to think about what might have been going on and what could have happened if I hadn't asked my brother to keep going. Years and years and years ago, I was working as a cart cowboy in a grocery store parking lot. This is still a few years before those electric motorized things would be in a majority of parking lots like they are now. So in the summer, it was hot, boring, and hard work. You would tend to get into your own head with so much monotonous time on your own. One hot, sweaty day, I was out collecting carts when what appeared to be a girls' softball team approached me. One of them asked me my name. I said, "It's you/Mosquito." Then they all proceeded to sing, Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Because just like me, they long to be close to you/mosquito. They finished and walked away. I just stood there, with a line of shopping carts and a confused look on my face. My ex was in the army and we were based in Germany. The roads around which the married quarters were built had been laid by POWs. We were extremely close to Bergen-Belsen. Our house had a cellar which housed the boiler, heating system, and washer-dryer, as well as a spare room. The stairs came out into the kitchen. One day we were stood in the bright and sunny kitchen and started talking about the stairs basement when the locked door handle turned. The door opened. The handle went back to the horizontal permission and the door swung open. There was nothing there. Well, nothing we could see. When I was in high school, me and some friends went to a haunted, abandoned church about 30 miles out of town one night. We were there for about 15 minutes when two of my friends decided to go in the basement. We had two girls with us who wanted nothing to do with it and wanted to just go back to the pickup. So me and my buddy go with them and waited for the guys inside. After a few minutes, my friends start walking out when a pickup pulls up, and the guy gets out and starts walking towards our pickup. My friends sprint to our pickup, and we speed away. That guy followed us for about 5 miles before turning around. I know it's not super creepy, but it sure scared the hell out of me at the time. I worked at a now-defunct video rental store for 5 years. Besides my store manager, I was the only other female who worked there, and as a result, only the two of us ever came into contact with who I like to refer to as Belly Button Guy. Basically, there was this guy that would come in every night that females were working. He would call ahead a bunch of times to ensure no men were there and would show up right before closing. He had a major belly button fetish. He would wear the same jeans and short-sleeve button-up dress shirt each visit. He would have the shirt tied up in a knot in order to expose his own belly button. He would only ever buy a candy bar, but would spend his time asking us if we had belly buttons, if we liked to be tickled, etc. He would then leave and immediately call the store, pretending to be his brother, and asking if we had seen him and his fucking belly button. He would go from store to store in the district until finally the police caught him. All of the guys thought we were nuts because no one else ever saw or spoke to him. Friends and I were around a bonfire last summer. Keep in mind that none of us were high or drunk. We were reading creepypasta for shits and gigs and started getting into an extremely deep discussion. We discussed the meaning of life, our place in the universe, the meaning of everyone around us, the reason we exist, and many more somewhat God-defying hypotheses. About 2 hours into this discussion, we get pretty deep, and I'm the second person to become extremely anxious. I honestly felt that some higher being would kill us before we answered any questions correctly. Feeling imminent death, we go off on a tangent about some creepypasta story. But the scariest thing that occurred that I will never forget was that we were cold. The fire was still going strong, and the area around it was cold. The only way to warm up was to get away from it. We then proceeded to put our hands in the flames, almost touching the logs, and it was as cold as ice. We dipped out real fast and went inside. Me and few buddies were headed out to the desert for a bonfire one night. Our hours 2 a.m. It was a small town, and there wasn't much to do. We go about 10 miles out away from town, and it's just desert on either side of the road. Suddenly, there's a pile of rags on the side of the road, and we slow down to take a look. The pile of rags was really an old lady, probably in her 70s. She popped up and we asked her if she was okay. She replied, "Oh yes, it just seemed like a nice night for a walk." Then sprinted into the desert. Freaked us all the hell out. A few years ago, I lived in an old studio apartment above a bar. One night I had a friend over and we were up late talking about ghost stories. He told me about some creepy experiences he had ghost hunting at abandoned asylums and such. He left around 3 a.m., and I tried really hard to go to sleep. I was still a little spooked and laid awake, focusing hard on the ceiling lamp, when suddenly I heard the ball chain click and the light turned itself on. I have never been so scared of a light turning itself on. That doesn't just happen, right? I called my friend instantly and we talked on the phone for a bit, but I was too freaked out to turn the light off or try to sleep. Eventually, as it started to get light out, the ceiling lamp clicked back off. Nothing like this ever happened before or after this. The building was old and there were a lot of noises there, but this was an isolated incident. Eventually, I moved due to a rat infestation that didn't affect any of the other units and apparently vanished as soon as I moved out. A friend of mine moved into the unit. She lived there for a year before I see her one day, looking a little freaked out. I ask what's up, and she explains that a detective came around wanting to take photos of the layout of the place. I guess 15 years ago, there was a murder of a child in the apartment, and the guy who did it was up for parole.